Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for your attendance at our March Council meeting. Declare the meeting open. Firstly, before we actually start, I'd like to officially welcome our new General Manager, Gary Woodman here. Gary, it's been a bit of a deja vu, I believe, but it's wonderful to have him back on board in the new role of General Manager after his previous role as Divisional Manager of Engineering Services. And we look forward, Gary, to having you and your family and your wife particularly, who I've met, in our community for a long time. And it's great to have you back and look forward to working with you over a long period of time. It's really appropriate to have someone of your expertise back on board, and we still talk about the programs you put in place between 96 and 04, and grateful to have you back and have you hands-on again. So, welcome. Thank you. Just calling for apologies for today's meeting. I have an apology from Councillor Taylor. Looking around the table, I think the only apology. Someone happy to move that apology? Councillor Drews, Councillor Williamson. All those in favour? Yes, carried. Moving on to the minutes of the ordinary meeting held Thursday, 25th of February. Someone happy to move those minutes? Thank you, Councillor Certainty. Second, Councillor Derrick. Councillor Certainty.
I think it's pretty good, thank you.
No questions, information sought before we put that? We're happy to put that then. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to disclosures of interest. Any councillor have an interest they wish to disclose in terms of any matters that come up in the business paper today? We'll record that as nil. Mayoral minutes. I have none. Moving on to item 6, the reports of the committees. The first of those, the meeting of the Sporting Facilities Committee held Wednesday, 24th of February. Someone happy to move those minutes? Or the recommendation, perhaps it's even more likely. Sorry, Councillor Irving, happy to move that. Moving the recommendation, Councillor Irving? Yes. Someone second? Councillor Certainty, Councillor Irving.
I guess we had correspondence from the Warren Senior Netball Association. They wanted us to consider reducing the high fee for each session they use the Sporting Culture Centre to play netball. The reasoning was that they're, just breaking even, or they think they could actually financially go down. So after a lot of discussion, we decided to not reduce the session fee of $66 because just for consistency's sake, although in hindsight I realised that we did drop the fee for other organisations, but that was during COVID. I think the context is a little different. So we're just hoping that the senior netball can just come up with some other ways to cover their costs. So that was, I don't know if anyone's had any feedback on that. And Wes, as usual, does a very good report on asset management with the gym equipment. And yes, that's going to be replaced over 5 years. Is there anything you'd like to add? Any comments?
No, it's you're reading in the recommendations there. Forest Academy and Sport is showing their support for the facility by wanting to put a 20-foot container on a temporary basis out towards the storage area. They're obviously gaining some equipment. They don't want to be moving stuff backwards and forwards on here. So that's a positive. Again, the constraints of the space around there have become obvious. There's just not a whole lot of room again there. So the need for that master planning to continue becomes apparent. You know, the other thing that comes to the fore is the fact that rugby union are now considering that girls may play in the Western Plains rugby competition, so it'll be separate competition, and then that obviates the need again for perhaps some separate change rooms. So again, where would that fit? Is there space to do it? Do we manage what we've got better? How's that all going to work? So that's why that's just on the radar to say, okay, we need to, if it's happening in one sport, is that going to happen in other sports as well? Rugby league, junior league, are girls and boys going to be playing on exactly the same time? So how's that all going to work? But I think that covers a fair bit. The other part is that the swimming pool redevelopment has got to a particular stage. The glaring anomaly there is the main building, the entrance building to that facility now. I guess we continue to chase grant funding for that building, but then the next question is that in the right place? Does it need to be a kiosk that really services that whole area? How's that going to work? I think that goes to Councillor Irving. We need to continue with the development of a master plan for that whole area. We've got some broad concepts there, but it's nailing down the detail about how things will really try and envisage how things will really work. That splash park is going to go all the time. Cricketers are going to be there at times to do athletics, the skate park. Is there an opportunity for someone to run a kiosk all year round there? And where would that be best sited and how does it all work together? So I think we're very much in the planning and really the consultation sort of stage about how that might all fit together. So we've got to a particular stage. We need to just reassess where we've got to and then go again. Any other questions? I'm happy to field as best I can.
Sorry, I did. Yeah, going on the master plan for the Parramatta Oval precinct, sporting precinct. Yeah, we did take on board the community feedback on the master plan. Yeah, I think that needs to be noted. That it's taken seriously.
Yeah, so there was, for other councils, there was a meeting where a lot of youth groups, we spent a lot of time walking around that precinct and taking on board what various sporting groups essentially were thinking about how it might all work in the skate park. The subcommittee was still in action then, and those people were involved in it as well. So we've got some good ideas about how the whole precinct might work. We need to, okay, we've seen that stage happen so far. Let's sit down again and really say, have we got this right?
So have you got a master plan?
There is a master plan.
I mean, no, a time scale for the master plan.
No, there isn't a time scale, but that's something you'll almost in the Mannix reports that there is a report saying that there was more detail coming to council about projects and how they might work, and that will be sort of, in my mind, part of what council becomes aware of, like, okay, where are we up to with this project, where's the dollars, and where's the time frame.
So, Mayor, was there a suggestion of having a projects management committee or something?
There is a projects committee.
It is, I thought it did. Okay. And
That's internal.
and that's their
Just the
role, is to really sort of,
to bring the main finance straight, so everyone's on the same page as to where projects are within the staff, and then we'll get an understanding from that where projects are.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, one of the major questions is I'm trying to, the first priority is I'm actually wanting to make sure I know the budgets of all the projects, and then the scope and the change of scopes, and that's half the last 10 or so working days to try to have an understanding of everything, and to keep the divisional manager finance administration happy.
Just a comment and a question. At tennis on Monday night, we observed that the lights were on the oval. I think they'd been left on, I have to assume they'd been left on all weekend there was a food fair or something, or there was something going on there late in the previous week, I think. I'm not exactly sure what was going on, but I suspect the lights were on all weekend and no one had done anything about it or had reported it or anything like that. Anyway, it was reported and they were turned off. after tennis, but they'd been on possibly 3 days, only on the first setting, so, you know, whilst it's an expensive set of lights to run, I just wonder whether we could investigate, or the Sporting Facilities Committee could investigate the system that Gilgandra Council runs, where you have a phone app that allows individuals to switch on and off the lights remotely. Maybe this wouldn't have sorted this problem out, because I don't think anyone even really realised it, or anyone who cared didn't realise it because no one was told. And so Wes was informed on Monday night. Could the committee investigate what would it cost to set up such a system that allows us to switch it on and off by smartphone, please?
Taken on board, absolutely. I would have to say it's not in my experience, it hasn't happened very often.
No.
It's a good thing. It's out of the ordinary, but yeah, take on board what I'm saying. Yeah. Any further comments, questions? Sorry, Councillor Derrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wondering, regarding the swimming pool master plan, letters were sent out to people thanking them for their responses and advising them that the letters will be presented to the school facilities committee. Will letters be sent out now again, advising them what is going to be happening?
I'd envisage so, Councillor Derrick, but I think we need to have some sort of, plan to give to people, saying how does this fit with you. Going the other way around, I mean, we've received some feedback, and we'll understand that, and let's then have some sort of plan ourselves, saying, okay, do you think if we did these sorts of things, would that fit with what you're asking for? To just have another situation where this ideas come, we're not actually moving forward. Yep. Is that?
Yeah, no, I was just concerned with there needs to be a follow-up to that letter.
Yes.
Because the letter just said, thank you, it's going to be percentages for the service meeting. It's not, so a follow-up to that, that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
yeah, on that, yeah, that's, I probably didn't articulate myself too well then. I did mean that feedback from the community is being taken seriously, and that's why Mr. Mayor said that with the general manager is going to liaise directly with the user groups of the swimming pool and with the people that patrons of this pool in relation to those letters, and that's recommended there, I think, in our, that helps.
Okay, thank you.
So there will be communication.
Councillor Drews.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, does a master plan like this go out on public exhibition?
I think we'll come out.
That'd be a complete process.
Yeah.
Come up with something, put it out again and get more feedback. Yeah.
But I think, we've got the broad concept in my mind. We've got the broader concept that we need to get. We're saying this is where the splash park will be. This is where the mini bike track will be. This is where the soccer field will be. Let's really say nail it down. Okay. If this is another level of saying, okay, do we have a picket fence around it? Do we have seating here or there, or how's that? Really be very conscious, given and understand what services are underneath and where they are, so we don't, say we'll build something over there that, oh goodness no, there's a sewage line there, there's a water line there. Just need to do it properly. Yep. Any further comments, questions on the Sporting Facilities Committee meeting? I think the case put that, all those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the second report, then, meeting of the Mannix Committee held Tuesday, 16th March. Happy to move those minutes. Councillor Irving. Second, Councillor Walker. Councillor Irving.
I've just got two questions. One question, to just clarify Tyree Road. I know you've, Tyree Road, it's on page 17, or page 4 in the projects, status report of projects and assets.
In the Mannix meeting.
In the Mannix meeting, Tyree Road, so we're working on Tyree Road, but I wasn't We might have to look at the document. It talks about it being in Narromine Shire and then north of our Shire boundary. I still wasn't sure where that was. Do you know where that actually? Could we ask Councillor Drewsney?
Yeah, I know. It is a major event. Finance administration can.
I have my vote.
It was formerly called part of the Dandaloo Road, which is then the bottom of the Shire, right near the bridge when you go over into Lachlan Shire. You turn, when you're coming down Tottenham Road, just before the bridge, you turn left. That used to be called Dandaloo Road, but when we done putting the new assets on the confirm, we looked at it, you can't have Dandaloo Road sort of starting there and then starting again up the road off the Tottenham Road a little bit more. So that 2.2 kilometres to the boundary of the Narromine Shire, that dirt road, that's the road now called the Tyree Road.
So it's in
Yeah, so
it.
so that's where it is there. So just before you go over the bridge into Lachlan Shire on the top of the road, you turn left, and that little road goes 2.2 kilometres. Then when you get 2.2, you're in Narromine Shire, and it's sealed from that 2.2 onwards. And we're just looking at upgrading and eventually looking at a sealed, so it's a sealed road all the way through.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah.
And then, so we found that when we were going through doing our asset stuff, we thought, well, yeah, it probably should be called Tyree Road and not part of Dandaloo Road.
This one on it talks in one of the circulars from the OLG about us possibly amending our code of meeting practice so that we include Zoom meetings. I thought that we could go down that track and just thought that maybe only because circumstances some of us do live in relatively isolated locations. I just happened to be staying in town this week. So yeah, is that going to be an option, you think, for us?
The consideration of one of the reports for the new council, September council.
So section.
Because there is a process then, you know, if the council says yes, we don't mind the idea of remote calling, we would then do the process of changing our code of meeting practice. But September council meeting
Okay.
of the new council. But it is nice to see you in the flesh.
Yeah, I'd love it.
The other item, I think, besides just everyone, Councillor Roberts, sorry. Well, who's, Councillor Certainly first, then.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just one query if I could. Item 4.3, the UMR Waste Depot status report. It says that Safe Australia has done an inspection. Just wondering what the feedback from them was. Was it good, bad, or different?
Understood. Part of the question. So the first part of that question was.
Sorry.
Feedback on it?
What I needed to know was Safe Work Australia have completed a inspection on it. I just wanted to know what the feedback came back from them.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Safe Work New South Wales visited the UMR waste facility last Monday. From that inspection, council has received 3 improvement notices.
What were they? Can we ask? Or?
Yes. There was in relation to training of staff, evacuation procedures, your signage. Yep,
So they're not happy with the signage that's currently there.
that's correct.
That's pretty ordinary.
So to follow up on that, with council certainly, you've got new signs to be arranged on entry to the waste depot. Was that part of one of these recommendations or improvements that they come with? What's the issue with the signs? They can complete, sit down, put that up. Okay.
Sorry, can I just get you to reiterate, you got the start training and start signage and what was the other one?
Evacuation procedures.
So how long have we got to get those under control or?
A month.
Do that within a month?
Training already.
Yes, everything's in process.
Excellent, thank you.
I'll have to follow up on this. I've had a few people talk to me over the weekend. Were the signs around to say the tip wasn't open? Because someone went on Sunday or Saturday and said it wasn't open, but they didn't see any signs.
I'd have to take that on notice.
Just to make sure that if it's not open, please put down signs.
Yes.
Through Mr. Mayor, I did have a question.
Yes.
If that's all right with the minutes. It's general business plan notice, item 8, is the general manager put round the people that were present about Murray-Darling Economic Development Program, and 3.
Yes.
I know I'm hard on this, but it seems to me an opportunity. But I mean, if you can get $1 million to start up a new business or an initiative that is employment in an area, that would be quite an achievement. It would be helpful. So I was just wondering if there was any feedback or if something in progress, because it's due the 12th of April.
Mr. Mayor, I've got staff working on 5 projects. There's no priority order, but no priority order of the projects, except if you imagine it's only the 12th of April, so there's a limit to what people can do. Those staff have said there's a chance they'll be able to organise the 5. But the 5th one is called the Bob Christensen Reserve Walkway and Improvement Program. It's a $900,000 project which allows people to walk from Bob Christensen Reserve and back around. It's the hardest one too, because we don't know whether we can actually do it properly in the ponds that are right there at the moment, as an example. But the other ones are $1 million at the Warren Showground Racecourse Complex to make sure we can water the Randwick of the West properly and try to fix up everything else we can for $1 million within the facility. Second one's Warren Shire Tourism Business Development and Macquarie Marshes signage, $500,000, which will be the extension of all the signage that we've got on our outskirts to try to keep people to come to Warren, go to the marshes, go everywhere except Cobar and Broken Hill and Dubbo. Carter Oval lighting project, $400,000 to completely light it up. And Munkigar Creek Macquarie Marshes bird viewing platform and parking project, $500,000.
So do they fit into the criteria if they're looking for something?
That's for economic development activities. Yes. It's not supposed to be roads, water and sewer, or education. And that's why, for example, it's not Munkigar Creek Macquarie Marshes bird viewing platform and access project, it's parking project.
I was just wondering, I did have a suggestion about recycling, which is what a lot of the community have been asking for some time, if there was any opportunity or chance that something like that could be followed up.
I understand that the staff of recycling, for example, as soon as you put the recycling in, it's $200 each to run for forever, a year. It's not as if it's let's then have a zero cost forever. It's put it in, and you well and truly know that you've got $200 recycling costs forever. I do understand. I've come from an area where you do feel good putting those bottles and cans away and putting them in. Don't put down the garbage chutes. You put them in the bin, the things, but it's really just trying to get some physical stuff out there that actually help economic development.
I think that was the thing is that it has to promote some sort of economic development in some way, shape or form. And we spoke to the lady's name.
It was Meredith Harris, but it's similar name to Ken Harris.
Yeah. Anyway, we spoke to him about the criteria, and that's and the time frame is short, so that's why we're trying to just get
and one of our officers actually sat through their webinar and registered this, and so that's why we kind of know these are the type of projects that that are well and truly applicable. We'd love to also put some $1 million roads in, but we can't.
Can I just have a comment, if you don't mind, Mr Mayor, on exactly that and follow on from that comment? So there's a couple of things there. Briefly, I'll just talk really briefly about recycling, and we've talked about drum muster and those sorts of things. I think we need to look at the big picture of the recycling and not kind of get blinkers on about cans and bottles. There's a little bit possibly to that. We've got a new waste transfer station coming. I think we need to explore the possibilities, not necessarily for this grant opportunity, but explore some of those things further. We've looked at drum muster in the past. I think that's a piece of the puzzle, but I don't want to take it off the table. I think that there's still a future for that. Along with can and bottle recycling is probably a bit of an opportunity there, but let's park that. The other thing I wanted to just briefly mention was in the past we talked about the new inland rail and the proximity of access to market that inland rail might provide us. We've got a great big facility just out here in the silos that are doing absolutely nothing. I'd like to see a bigger picture exploration of the opportunities that some of these assets that we have in our shire, in particular that one, could be used. And, you know, I think we need to think outside the square. If they're massive pieces of infrastructure that, you know, huge trucks can park and turn around in there sort of thing, and sitting there doing not much at all. I mean, I understand that there's storage of cottonseed and sort of seasonal use. I'd have thought that would fit into this type of thing absolutely perfectly because it would generate jobs. If we could turn that facility into a money-making venture, or even explore it. But we've talked about it in the past, and we need some fresh thinking and some new eyes on this. It's not our particular area of expertise, of course, but does Inland Rail provide this council with an opportunity? Because, you know, out here access to market is difficult, but that with a 2-hour drive, that might change. I just think we need to be on the front foot with that, and if it doesn't, so be it. If it does, let's explore maybe what we might be able to do going forward and have a long-term plan to utilise that new asset. Yep.
Can I just follow on from what Andrew said? I mean, we did have a brainstorming when Brendan Wilcox was here, that did come up. I mean, there was the idea of, you know, vegetables hydroponically and improvement of the airport, which could bring in planes and take out produce and that sort of thing. And I think, yeah, I think the bigger picture thing is down the track.
So councillors will be aware that we've been promised as part of the Murray-Darling Basin Economic Diversification Fund an economic development person. The General Manager and I have been continuing to chase that because I raised it with Mark Colton that actually hasn't happened on any number of occasions, and times it's been good. At the last JO meeting, and I think I related it to in our briefing session prior to it, Ken Harrison, who was part of the Premier Cabinet, said that position was about to be advertised. So what had happened is the federal government had transferred the funding to the state government. What I was concerned about though was in that transfer, it had been lost that officer, an economic development officer, was just to work with the Walgett Shire in respect of Colorado being a disadvantaged town and Warren Shire Council, Waverley too. When it moved into this, as the state government agenda, the inference was that no, this would be a much broader role, and that person would work along with a lot of other councils besides Warren and Walgett. Came back and checked that factually. The matter is that yes, the economic development officer is for Warren and Walgett councils. We've been at pains. I haven't had this phone conversation, but I think the General Manager may have had the phone conversation with Ken Harrison to just say, woo, this is Warren and Walgett. It's not Arana or anything else. So sorry, what I'm leading to, Councillor Walker and Councillor Brewer, that advertising is taking place as we speak. Is it still open?
The 2nd of April it closes. I think everyone's got a copy, and if you know of anybody who you think is a good, then it's right to me, that'd be one of the first jobs that the business development facilitator can start working on, apart from also running our economic development committee, and doing lots of good work for us.
But and to continue that, if there's someone local, there was no promise that that person would be based in Warren or Colorado, for that matter. But if there's someone local that we can think of who would fit that role, please ask them to apply for that position, because having someone living locally who understands the nuances of a standard grain silo out here and some, sheds, etc., would be beneficial. Much better to have them here than living in Dubbo, for instance. And so please apply your minds to that particular role. Yeah. So I hope, in a roundabout way, Councillor Brewer and Councillor Walker, that brings you up to
I saw there's an opportunity to get that back on the table and have that discussion, keep it front of mind, because it's an opportunity, I think.
Yep, fine.
Clearly too late for this grant submission.
But nonetheless, there are grant, not for that thing, but there are 5 projects that will be hopefully shot in, at least 4 anyway.
Thank you.
Any further comments, questions regarding the management meeting held on 16th March?
Something very important, Mr Mayor, is a different title reporting to the council. A little bit of Back to the Future, and we're still working on it. I'll almost promise you the April meeting, but the divisional manager of engineering services is going to set up the pro forma for everyone else, and of course with what's happened, what it will be is it will be crafted to be perfect over several months after April as well, with your feedback.
Yeah, so what we're speaking about is getting some more detail into the business paper about specific works, what projects are happening, what happened in the last month, and what's proposed for the next month. Those of you who are familiar with the old business papers will understand there was a fair bit more detail in them, and so what we're trying to do, and the Deputy Mayor and I have been at pains to try and get some more information for councillors in the business paper, and that's what we're collectively working towards. So we'll know where things have been, where the funding is, in particular in relation to projects, and where we're going, and some sort of timetable about little things. The parks are mowed that week and we mow them every 2 weeks, or people go to Never Tire and Collide 1 day a week, and this is what they do there on that day, and then they do another day, etc. So we've really got a very clear understanding of what's being achieved. It's going to take a little while, as the gentleman says, to get to that stage and understand what's required and what's not required, but we're working in that direction. Okay. Anything further on the Manning's report? Nothing further. We'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the meeting of the Showground Baseball Committee held Wednesday, 17th of April. Someone happy to move the recommendation out of that committee? Councillor Beach. Anything, Councillor Beach, Councillor Beach.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. That was our first meeting the other day since we wound up the subcommittee. So basically, just to give you a quick update where things are up to down there. The equestrian centre is nearing completion. The surface is pretty well there, just the drainage, and the kick rails have got to be sorted yet, so that's going to be hopefully sorted in the next few weeks. The kick rail, we're still looking at tenders there to get that finished. We met with the equestrian committee, and basically we asked them to sort of take some ownership of it. We've got most other groups down there, their projects have all taken ownership of it and done a terrific job. So we met with four young committee people who are very enthusiastic, and they're willing to take that role on to get the centre up and going. the immediate plan is to have a carnival following the shows, so somewhere in June, July, so hopefully that's up and going then. We also, we had some discussions about the layouts down there. I guess what we're going to have to finish up with is having some sort of a master plan, how it's all going to gel together. We've got a show coming up at the end of May, so that should give us some idea how that works. The equestrian, like I said, they're working on how it can gel together. So we've got a meeting coming up our next meeting's in 5th of May, I think, and the week before that we're going to meet down there and just get everyone's head around it and just try and work everyone's intellect to see how they can, with all our capable young people around here, I'm sure we'll come up with a great master plan that fit what's going to be a great facility down there. With the show coming up, we're hoping to have the power all connected there for the showies. The upstairs area, it probably it won't be touched. We've got races on April the 10th, so it won't be touched till after that. So there'll be just some intermediate work before the show, just stuff that won't interfere with show either. So just a few basic things, maybe the toilets, the air conditioning, stuff like that. And the rest of that will be all completed after the show, and that's the same for the toilets. Also, we've received some further funding just recently for the power coming in from the Corinda Road for that back camping area. So that's going to have new power all sourced through there. Also, some funding to upgrade the cattle yard. So it's still rolling on out there. But, anything you'd like to add on? Fellow delegates, or any questions?
Councillor Roostry, some more information.
I just think it's, with all our projects, it's great to get this group together to go through, get a master plan, because there's a lot of force users in that and getting it right so it's safe for everyone as well and the public. I think it's a great thing that we're doing with that and get everyone on the same page.
Yeah, I think it's easy sometimes to get caught up in things that aren't quite right or needs to be refined. You know, I think just sit back and say there's been a lot achieved out of the Showground Racecourse. You know, to get that significant size, whatever it is, 80 by 42 metre arena in Warren is a big tip, and all the other upgrades, the Polo Crossfield, the Carning Club, everyone's, you know, there's 8 or 9 user groups out there who had some benefit. We'll revitalise the lounge area in time. Yeah, it's ongoing, but I think you just got to say, you know, wow, when you look back, there's been a lot achieved out there, and I think that committees, you know, function with the development committee and then the Showground Racecourse committee itself done well to get that far in a good time frame, a good budget. Yeah, and I think it's ongoing, as in the Carter Road precinct. Those things just need to be refined, and we just keep making them better and better. So I think congratulations to that committee. It's been a good effort.
If you're poking out that way, I mean, just one thing that's completed is the Polar Cross area. I mean, it's pretty amazing. It's been designed to international standards. Each field's rooftop with drainage off each field going to centre drainage, which all finishes back in the main dam. So yeah, I think that's pretty amazing job from the Polar Cross people. Good.
Thank you. Councillor Irving.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. It talks about down on new general business. There's been a request for plans, so that they can plan, I guess, for the users. Is someone actually onto that? The treasurer of the P&A has asked me, she's been contacting council and saying, do we have plans? Because we'd like to be able to plan for the show. And so I just wanted whose responsibility if that's kind of moving forward so that plans are given.
So what these plans are is the plans of the whole complex, plans of some of the works that have been all put together to help the users prepare on the 28th of April. And I think Riley's been setting up information as people come in as able to give it, is that correct? You're aware?
I'm not aware of that.
We need to focus. One of the jobs he was doing is make sure that all that type of stuff, because he did do a survey, so there's a plan of a surveyed area. We'll follow up to make sure that he's kind of organised them to come in, able to come in and get information from us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further on the Showground Racecourse Committee meeting? Being the case, we'll put that, all those in favour? Yes, carried. Moving on to the reports to council. The first of those is the delegate reports, and those ones being the Warren Interagency Support Services. Report from the delegates. Someone to have to move that report. Councillor Walker. Second, Councillor Derrick. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's all sort of there. There were various things like we had Ursula Ryan turns up for Flying Doc Service about the hydroponics system that they've set up at the school, and they had a training day for that at some stage. I'm not sure. I thought it was February, and I think that's when it happened, for the children to know how to use it, which is a great thing for them. Also, Peter Mackey, who's the Aboriginal Education Officer at the Central School, and that Colleen and Peter had a class once a week, and they're learning about history and culture of the Aboriginals and doing all sorts of activities into the new year, I'm sure. Probably Colleen would be talk about that. And also talking about Leanne Howard at the youth centre, and she can serve people with drug issues. There's also this Ben Williams, this is the first time I met him from NDIS, young adults that can possibly access the NDIS, and have a chat with them. So there's a few things going on. I would say that the next meeting we had, this is a verbal account, on the 11th of February, we didn't have a quorum, so we didn't have a meeting, but we had a good chat with Kelly Sinclair from the youth centre.
I think that the importance of this delegate report is that this thing's happening that as a council we're not aware of, and so it's actually just to actually have the information is the essential part of this.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on that we don't actually, there's things here I personally didn't know were occurring. And so, I think there's some value in continuing to have those meetings, and even if you have the chat, it's a valuable exercise nonetheless, I think.
Well, as you say, Ben Williams is the first time to become, it was a new position, and the services that they provide to the community, so there's always something going on, and new people turning up and telling us what they're doing. There's some great things going on.
Can I just ask a brief question? Being not a committee of council, do you have to have a quorum? Isn't it an information exchange meeting rather than
I would have thought it was quite possible, Councillor Brewer,
I think there's still value in recording the conversations that are had, because it's not a committee council, so I don't understand you'd have the constitution, so I understand you couldn't have a quorum, but
I think we'll just look into that, make sure that that's correct, and then you've got some guidelines then going forward. But nonetheless, it's been valuable. Verbal report is good. We're still, still getting something well and truly positive out of it, and I take on board.
Maybe that hydroponics thing could be upscaled to the silos. You know?
Small things, Councillor Brewer.
Some early adopters at the school.
Thank you. Any further questions on the interagency delegate report? Councillor Derrick, then Councillor.
Sorry, through Mr. Mayor, just on that point. So when we haven't had a great attendance at the meetings, we have still, as Katrina said, had valuable discussions. Some of those discussions wouldn't be recorded, which is fine. And at any time, there is also the opportunity for people to circulate information via email. So rather than taking minutes or notes at a meeting like that, people can still send updates throughout any other time outside the meetings. So there is still email within the group, so when something's coming up or when there's been a change in someone's role. So there's quite a lot of communication that happens outside the meetings as well.
Okay.
So rather than documenting an informal discussion, we'll probably just encourage people to continue to put their updates in the outside meetings.
Thank you. Yes. That's very good. Thank you. Councillor Evans?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wondered if, Councillor Walker, would you have it be able to just, could we please amend the word Aborigines to Waiwurrung Nation? Because the program is specific and contextual. Yeah, so I didn't get a chance to talk about that before. The standards.
Yep.
Thank you. It's pretty much a wellbeing program. I can talk more on that at our next interagency meeting to give it a bit more substance.
So the movement second, have you just amend that wording? Yeah, thank you.
And what, instead of Aborigines, what is it supposed to be? Well,
The Waiwurrung Nation.
wow.
Councillor Surdy, question?
If I could just ask for a quick clarification, because I'm not sure if it came up before. Now that we have the youth foundation in town, do we still need to have the youth subcommittee as part of the interagency or not? Or can it just go back into the
Mr. Mayor, I know that that subcommittee is also not a council committee, so it was pretty much to be run by the community, and I actually hadn't been informed of some of the meetings, so but then I know now that I don't think they've been meeting regularly, so at all actually, but so I'm not sure what the next step is. Maybe I could go and see Kelly about that.
No, I was just curious as to whether or not there was still anything happening through it
No,
or not.
it hasn't been.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further on the delegates report regarding interagency? If being the case, put that, all those in favour? It's carried. Moving on to the secondary reports from delegates that relates to mining and energy related councils. That's a verbal report. Councillor Irving, but there is a written report here, so that matters not. Someone happy to move that first, Councillor Irving, second, Councillor Garrett, Councillor Irving.
Okay, so on the 26th of February, I attended the advisory, and we had 3 guest speakers, who were really good, I thought. They quite informative, but also at the same time, the 2 politicians, the Shadow Minister for Local Government and Greg Warren and David Shoebridge, who is MLC for the Greens, they both, I guess, seem to take on board the concerns of the association in relation to issues that do affect local councils. So for example, the emergency levy, the fact that councils have to deliver that or manage that, they are pursuing that on our behalf. So this association has direct contact with these politicians that can be a voice for us at state government level, which we're really appreciative of. And so the emergency levy was discussed a lot. And practical ideas, like one of the councillors from Broken Hill was going to get examples of how the state government administered the levy in South Australia, so that that could be taken to New South Wales government, for example. So Chloe Hicks, just a bit more to add on her in the minutes there. So she's the Director of Energy Infrastructure and Design. She gave a really well presented PowerPoint on the whole project. So it's a New South Wales electricity infrastructure roadmap and renewable energy zones presentation, and she talked about how the coal-fired power is being decommissioned, I guess, in the next 15 years. It's been built up over 30 years, but now will need replacing in the next 15, and so the renewable energy focus is going to ramp up, and so we need in the next so in the next 15 years, yeah, something needs to be done. But so she talked about a coordinated transition, so making sure we don't do mistakes in South Australia. So there's three points to that coordinated transition. We've got transmission, the renewable energy zone, generation and storage. So that's all together and they're all linked up. So I'll get the executive assistant to email that to the councillors, that slideshow, and also other corresponding elements. Yeah, so there was a lot in that meeting. Are there any, the Minister for Energy decides on the boundaries for the RES. We had for some reason we weren't being invited, even though part of the privilege of being part of belonging to this association is being included to have a voice in this renewable energy zone discussions. So in Dubbo, and they had a meeting on and it's called the Central West Renewable Energy Zone, but we actually didn't receive an invitation, so we've just followed that up, and so they now have the general manager's contact details and my contact now. I've been receiving the information, but they did have us down as an apology. I noticed in the minutes, which is a bit, because we hadn't received an invitation, so I might just, I'm not sure, I think maybe the transition in general managers, maybe there was a mix up there, so we'll just clarify that, but we do want to be involved, and the next meeting is in May, so we'll be sure that someone can attend that, just so that we are a presence, even though we're not in the zone. And something, last point of interest, Councillor, Mayor Miller of Forbes pointed out that the zone, it's named Central West Renewable Energy Zone is not an accurate name, because it doesn't include the Central West, all the Central West region in the zone. And she said it's more an Arana renewable energy zone. So they're going to look at renaming it for that reason. If it was Central West, we would be included in some forms.
Thank you, Councillor Irving. Councillor Survey.
Just a quick query. I noticed it's mentioned in here that Singleton Council have pulled out membership. Was there any reason why? I mean, it must be.
Yeah, they've been really active, so it was a surprise for everybody. But you know, every council, I guess there's one or two that question membership because it does cost. There's a cost to it, and I guess they were weighing up the costs, and basically I felt that the person representing Singleton Council at those meetings was the Mayor of Singleton, and individual councillors obviously thought it's important to be a member, but other councillors were able to, you know, didn't think it was important, so it just depends on your perception of the role of the association. And we need to re-evaluate that too regularly, you know, whether our membership is worth the money or not.
Thank you. Anything further on the before the mining energy related councils? Delegate report. Enough further, we'll put that all over the vote. Against carried. Moving on to first the council, first of those is the report to the general manager, and item 1 in that report is the outstanding reports checklist. Someone happy to move that report? Councillor Sturdy, sorry, not the Councillor Sturdy. Councillor Walker, Councillor Sturdy.
Sorry, I thought you went on the seconder.
Yeah, no, Councillor Walker seconded.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Sorry. I'm just curious in relation to the, I think it's the first item on that list about the, the second one, mobile and internet coverage in Avatar. I know you gave a quick verbal about the meeting that you did, like, because all of us were there. Can you just give a quick update as to how you went with Mark Colton?
Well, the first point is that Council certainly moved that we write to, in the end, it was federal and state members regarding the lack of mobile coverage in Nevertine. We then wanted to understand what Field Solutions, or what's it called, Southern Field Group Solutions. Field Solutions Group were actually proposing at Nevertine, so that we didn't actually go off on a tangent saying things that were not factually correct. So Major Finance Administration spoke to the Field Solutions Group, the fellow who in charge of purchasing the land and questions about, where we're going ahead, etc. The end result of that conversation, and the Major Finance Administration might correct me if I'm wrong there, but they had an indication that they themselves, Field Solutions Group, would have internet type coverage, that Optus would have mobile coverage on that tower, that Telstra weren't going to be party to that tower. Is that?
Yeah, that's basically it. The Field Solutions Group supply fixed wireless internet only, but their towers are built to be able to take two carriers, which they offered to Optus and they offered to Telstra. Optus have signed in, Telstra haven't at this stage. And they're also building towers at Gingin and also Mulungatari as well to start getting the connectivity on the highway. And that's when we had discussions that maybe we should be lobbying someone in Telstra to look at putting their infrastructure on that tower to be built.
So then, following on from knowing that information, at the last county mayor's meeting, Mark Colton's, one of his advisors, was there, Catherine. Anyway, the upshot of it, I had a long conversation with her pointing out our problem. She was to get back to me with, or she was going to speak with Telstra and get back to Warren Shire Council with someone who we could speak with at the highest level so we could actually progress this matter. And thank you for raising it, because that hasn't occurred as of yet. And so we need to follow that up and just see where that actually sits. So it's in train, Councillor Certainly. Thank you for reminding me, but it's something that hasn't, we've been, how you sit there and wait for the call to come back to you and it hasn't happened, and that's prompting. Thank you.
And just a question for you, Mr. Mayor. The towers that they're building at Gingin and Mulungatari, they only for Optus as well?
As far as I'm aware, yes, Optus are the only ones that come on board, and the person I was speaking to, he said, yeah, we've also got proposals in to build at Gingin and also Mulungatari. But then he went on to say that there's other countries in there, and what they're looking at doing is putting on their own receiver and transmitter, which is neutral, basically. So Optus would come in, Vodafone would come in, Telstra could come use their which I think would be the best proposal, but that's for their lobbying the government for NBN and the communications to say, well, why don't we look at putting these in? Then they wouldn't, Telstra wouldn't have to put a bit of infrastructure in, Optus wouldn't need to be one bit of infrastructure that would be carrier neutral and be able to accept and send out. But I don't know how far down the track that is, and that's what the rest is explaining to me, which was all new to me too.
Yeah. So, look, the man's progressing. Councillor Certainly, keep reminding us, please, so that we, keep following it up and get it.
And I did mention that to Sam Faraday when we were at the Nevertine pub, that, why can't you just have one bloody tower that does everybody and anyone can be into it? So they were talking about it then. So the whispers are going around out there, but I mean, we could all be pushing up daisies by the time something happens. Not making me, but
So just another question, just what I was reading in the Black Spot program, actual councils can't put submissions into that, is that right? It's going to be more individual, or councils can put submissions into it?
Previously, I put in submissions to approve that.
Because just at the last meeting, Councillor Williamson brought it up that That should be whole Shire.
I think it adds weight if it's whole tribe, but there's nothing to preclude council saying, and Mark, when Mark Cole speaks about these things, he speaks directly to White Dry Council, so I don't think.
But there's another black spot program coming up,
Yeah. Which,
number 6 or something, that it may be something worth looking at.
Well, they've got $400 million.
so it's on the agenda, let's keep reminding us please, and we'll keep pushing it because it's certainly a significant issue and it needs to be addressed, that's certainly the case. Any further comments, questions regarding the report of the General Manager, first item there, the outstanding reports checklist? Any nothing further?
Just a quick question, so on that, so Field Solutions Group, are they officially accepted?
I don't think you further managing Finance Administration.
Through now, we haven't received a formal letter. When I was speaking to Greg McCall, who currently used to work for Telstra, he was going to go to Sydney and talk to their bosses there to see if they're going to see him, but I haven't heard anything back, and that was talking down a few weeks ago. So I haven't shaken it up since then.
Any further on item 1, General Manager's report? Communication put all those in favour? Yes. Carried. Item 2, in recognition of Warren being Hawke's Town, this will be the standing agenda item. Councillor Walker, I know you're enthusiastic on this. No, I'm not forgetting this one, Councillor Walker. So item 2, the General Manager's report, that being a committee and delegates meeting. Someone happy to move those? Councillor Walker. Second, sorry, Councillor Higgins. Councillor Walker.
I'm just happy to move it, and if I could also ask, when the district manager of New South Wales Rural Fire came, was that a discussion about the season coming up, or no?
No.
But I'm meeting them again on the 6th of April.
That was more to, I think how far we got with this. I think it was alluded to at one of our briefing sessions that a shed be built out at the airport, and the movement of the county council occurred to the depot and those sort of logistical matters. That's what that meeting was about.
And that has now started to progress.
No, it was brought up.
Yeah. Anything further? I was just meaning to alert the General Manager that you and I are going to Broken Hill. You knew it. That's a very good point.
Mind about something, I don't know. We need to know that. Unfortunately, our executive secretary has organised us.
Good. Yes, that's it. So prior to the next council meeting, we will go to Broken Hill to what has been an informative Western Division of Council's meeting. Councillor Walker attended the last one in Burke 2 years ago, and I think the opportunity is there that, because there's not a big number of people there, to actually speak with ministers and higher level government people, so you're not wasting your time, in my view, at the lower levels of the opportunity to talk to people who can actually make a decision.
You were talking a lot about drought and water at that stage.
Where was the Niall Blair was the minister at that time. Happy to listen to us, which was nice. Anything further on the committee and delegates report? Meetings? Anything further? Nothing further? Put that, all those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 3, I think, yes, Councillor Walker is suggesting you might sit for this one. It may take a little longer. Is that what you're suggesting? Moving on to item 3, the report of the General Manager, that being the delivery program progress report. So everyone will understand this is the 4-year program. Well, now it's been extended perhaps to 5 years.
You'll get the final one in August. I'll follow the instructions from OLG so far is really, it's a kind of 5-year, 4-year program. And the next council gets a 3-year program to develop.
I need to move it. Councillor Certainty, you're indicating you move that. Second, Councillor Bruce, Councillor Certainty.
Just a quick one. I did flip an email through to the general manager beginning of the week. Which I'm not expecting an answer back from anyway, so you're all right.
I'll tell you a few things, Dan. I've thought of a couple of things already. Like I decided that this needed to actually, so I can have an understanding, and that's why there's many, many more amber than green than you've actually seen previously, because some things haven't happened, and
Yeah. Which is what, and it's nice to just, remind people that what's in there. But the one thing that did trigger my memory or my brain was, with all of the recent rain that we've had, particularly at Nevertar where it's flat, we know that. When the first round of rain came, my husband got out with a rake and started raking all the rubbish off the drainage pits, which once he did that, the water started to twirl and go away. But when we looked at the pits after, you could actually see them, there's still a lot of rubbish in there that needs to go on a general maintenance programs so that when we do have these events, it's not going to be a reaction to say, look, we need you to come out here, it's an emergency thing. If the drains are kept reasonably clean, we may not have to do emergency call-outs to council because we know the water will lie there because it's flat land, but it doesn't help when drains are all blocked up. And at the moment, the water is still lying around those two, particularly the one at the back of my place, it's still lying there underneath that, what do you call that, three-phase power pole thing. It's still lying there, so I know it needs a good clean out. And I've tried to pull what I can without pulling the brake up, but I can't get into the brake. My hands are too big.
oh, we've got some machines to do that.
I think Councillor Certainty, you make a very valid point. I mean, this is what we want to get to with those number of reports that come to the business paper, that those grades were cleaned, every 3 months or something.
Yeah.
Just to see that that's actually occurring, and that then reduces, as you're saying, the possibilities. And so, yeah, very valid. I think there's any.
And I know it's a little probably a little bit aggravated in the fact that we still have the loose stones on the road because it's not been that long since it's been ditchment. And every time the road sweeper comes, they're automatically going to get whipped into somewhere once. So we're ending with the drain.
Nonetheless, I think it's valuable to see. Yes, there are a number of amber things there, but I think we need to all understand that nothing. It takes time, but we need to, re-establish our efforts in various areas just to say, yes, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen. I know we become very time poor, but we have a commitment to do these things, and we need to keep going with them. So, someone else with a comment, question? Councillor Early?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We had a workshop with the Parks and Gardens staff, and they were concerned about not keeping up with the Parks and Gardens, and I really appreciate actually General Manager being transparent about where we are at with this delivery program by having Amber. I just wondered, and me and Councillor Certainty Second have to support this, but should the Parks and Gardens also be Amber, because I think we do know that, but we are a little bit behind with that maintenance of Parks and Gardens.
What page was that on?
That's in the red section, page 20 of the document, the red section, 3.2.1.
I tossed up whether it was a make an Amber. But, I mean, the maintenance program, I do understand. I tossed up whether to make it Amber or not because I knew that there'd been some previous meetings. I think from my interview onwards, when you and I noticed you shouldn't be mowing 2'6" grass before the cotton cut. But you can't say anything at the moment.
See blokes trying to mow out there, getting their mowers bolted at the moment, so they're trying to.
I think that the point is, there is a maintenance program to develop and review that there is a maintenance program that we run. Yes,
And that's the main thing.
that's the main thing, it's just the delivery of that within the staffing we have, the allocation of where they're allocated the time to do stuff, that's where I think we need to be much tidier, get things done.
And that's all part of the kind of semi-small service reviews that I'm doing anyway, like the poor people around me know magical dates already for the next 2 months and kept getting reminded.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, Councillor Irving. Councillor Walker, Councillor Survey.
Through you, Smith, I'm just wondering, items 1.4 or 1.4.2 are to do with meeting with the police. We used to, when I first became councillor, I remember them coming upstairs and we'd have a chat and have a listen and look at stats and all this sort of thing. I don't remember us having a meeting recently. I don't know if there's something the senior members of the council meet. Well, I really think we should follow up on that and have some more regular meetings, and so we can voice what we're told here, that's going on in the area that's crime and
I think it does say minimal meetings held in Amber there, so I think that's valid. I mean, it is valid because we haven't had a meeting.
It's on the list, and hopefully we will very soon get a new sergeant.
Yeah, yes.
And start trying to get his boss from Burke to come.
to come to meetings.
And that's most of the time the precinct meetings were kind of organised by Burke. Dave Oaken.
Yes, sorry, Dave Marsex's on the Burke, sorry. Yeah, sorry, Councillor Williamson, do you have a comment question?
No, just about the, we were in the data ranking now.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Councillor Sergi?
Just another thing with regard to the various meetings, we used to also, back in the day, have general meetings from the people like TAFE and the people from the schools who would just give us an idea of what they could preempt things that we could see as being maybe a problem might identify. And if they could just be regenerated again, it just keeps us all in the loop, because sometimes people come up to you, you're standing there looking like a stone wallet because you have no idea what they're talking about. So, whereas in the old days we would preempt and pre-warn. And the other final comment I have is, can you please make a list of the acronyms? I hate acronyms.
Fair enough.
I'm finding it really hard, because I mean, there's one in there that's the ATO. Well, I mean, I know we've got the tax office, but it's also something else. And yeah, I just find it
reasonable. Councillor Sergi, exactly. I think, Councillor, just an observation with regard to meeting with the TAFE and etc. As is understandable, we're often doing the rose-coloured glasses version of what's happening in those spaces, and sometimes the reality is a little, in my view at times, a little different. And so I think we, yes, understand having a meeting, but and I think that's valuable. I think we need to do it. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, just needs to be
I do realise there's a few buildings now at TAFE that are now decommissioned because they've got white ants. So, well, I found out when I was getting a haircut. And I'm thinking, okay, because I suggested something about, having a workshop up there and speaking with her from in relation to Park Art stuff. And she said some of the buildings are decommissioned, so they're not being used. And I thought, okay, how many people around town know that? Pretty good. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll get on and organise those over a period of time.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further comments?
Just
Councillor Drew?
comment, just with the health side, is there somewhere we can maybe put in the weights? Somehow,
The delivery plan.
can the council?
Oh.
Can,
Sorry.
yeah, I don't know whether it can, it's, yeah, whether you actually put it in
I think
there.
that'll become part of the new delivery plan that's adopted by new council.
Oh,
Yeah, I think this is what's been adopted for 4 years.
Okay.
timeframe, but there's, there's the individual plans that the yearly operational plans. Yeah, but I think for this one, this is a 4-year delivery plan, and that's where we are in relation to this one. Any further comments, questions regarding the delivery plan project report?
And I think ATO is Assets Technical Officer.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I worked that one out. We'll work out some of the others.
Thank you for that. Very good. Any further comments, questions on the 4-year delivery plan progress report? Being nothing further, we put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the late item that's been tabled in front of you regarding our membership of the Arana Joint Organisation of Councils.
Now, apologies to actually do a late report, but this needed to happen.
A few minutes to read it.
Do you want some?
Just to get out.
Yep.
I can ask her.
Yeah.
This last meeting.
Sorry?
I don't know, last.
Yeah, so I think it's not, please feel free to read it for a minute, and, but it's not, probably not news to all of us, in that we had discussed in our previous sessions.
Mayor, I'd like to add a 6th recommendation.
We haven't moved it or seconded. You're happy to just add that before we disagree. So, yep. Gary, would you have the opportunity to type into this on screen before? You do? Yep. The gentleman is indicating that we may have a 6th recommendation. Has everyone had a chance to read that late report? And then we're just going to ask on the screen for us the General Manager's 6th point regarding recommendation.
Mr. Mayor, what it really, number 6 is, this is what other councils have actually put in. Bogan particularly, is let's go back to trying to develop something like the Arana Region Organisation Councils, which is a nice, cheap organisation that actually had some good regional collaboration that didn't cost us too much money. And of course that just allows things to progress, and then council makes its final decision if something starts to be more concrete.
Yeah, so what I think we probably need to move in a second so we can have some discussion. Councillor Brewery, have you been seconded? Councillor Sturdy, Councillor Brewer.
I'll just include the recommendation, but I will defer to the General Manager if you'd like to have it.
I do understand that in the end, the joint organisation for a very reduced number of councils, no big large council to kind of help support it, such as Dubbo Regional. I've actually heard that Dubbo could be very favourable going back and rejoining the regional organisation councils, which could fix up a lot of things that, and again help with going back to having the Lower Macquarie Water Utilities Alliance again with them as the main help and all sorts of things like that. The main thing is that this organisation could be insolvent very soon. We don't want to be part of anything that's insolvent. What we want to do is probably in the end be part of an organisation where there's some a reasonable amount of regional collaboration that doesn't cost us too much money.
So, do you have an indication whether the other mega councils are going to do this?
Exactly, every one of them. In fact, I used two reports from two different councils to put my report together. I think Gilgandra resolved that way on the 16th of March.
I've struggled to find anything that the JO has done, obviously, other than cost us money. There's a lot of bluster at the start about what they can do for us, but I haven't seen them actually do anything significant. I could be wrong with that, but yeah, really pointless.
No, it's a fairly fractured. So our JO at present excludes Dubbo. So it has Midwestern, which is Mudgee, Warrumbungle, Gilgandra, Narromine, us, Bogan. So we're missing out of potential members of that JO. Canamble have chosen not to be part of it. Then there's a separate organisation, the Far West JO, which is Cobar, Burke and Walgett. And for Warren could have potentially been part of that, and they've chosen not to join that JO. So it's all quite a fractured, two organisations, quite fractured, and has lost the intent of what was the old OROC, where all those councils were included, and it was a voluntary organisation, but worked well to achieve a number of things. In a financial sense, the JO at the moment is obligated by statutory legislation to employ an executive officer at almost the general manager's rate of pay. And so my view and the other view of other mayors has been that we're not achieving anything that can justify that sort of money being tipped in. If we don't tip that money in, it has been, money's been reallocated from out of the Office of Local Government to prop it up for this year. We applied for some funding to do other things, and it's really just to keep the thing going. At the moment, Brad Cam, General Manager of Midwestern Council, is doing it in an honorary capacity. So our collective view is that it's an organisation that's failed, and we can't see a way out of it. And I think as Stephen Glenn spoke to us at, I forgot what was a workshop or a pre-brief, the leading light of those organisations is actually really surviving because they built up some massive reserves before they became a JO, and now they're chewing into those reserves to get the money. So I don't believe I think it was an ill-considered move on behalf of the state government, and unfortunately I can't see a way for us to really continue with it. I know it's the numbers like for the Finance Administration, but we're contributing about 8 or 9, 10,000 a year to it or something.
It's pretty fair. I usually put in the budget with over 10,000.
Yeah. So, and as other councillors alluding to, we've got to be aware of, if a member of an organisation isn't giving us that money, I don't believe this one is even 10 grand. Yeah, it's not a huge amount of money, but it's not a pittance either. Doing something else with it. So, my belief is that General Manager said that Dubbo particularly would be interested in becoming part again of a voluntary organisation, and I think that would be a principal benefit. I've attempted to always maintain a good relationship with Ben Shields, Mayor of Dubbo Council, so that he's been decent to us, and over time, and Dubbo City Council has been decent to Warranshire Council, and so I'm endeavouring to continue that relationship, and speaking with him, I think there was a view that maybe that voluntary organisation is something that they would be part of. So I'm very much in favour of this motion that we resign our membership of the Orana Joint Organisation and Councils and look to move forward with the Office of Local Governments in Kamata. I think they're going to have to look at, we won't be the only case, there's other joint organisations exactly the same boat, and even if supposed good ones, in my view, what I understand are struggling, so, or not struggling, but they're not sustainable the way they are, I believe.
And Hunter's got some very large streams, fun streams too.
Yeah.
We get the wheel when it was working well before.
I mean, what's happened is it's just sort of fractured what was just a natural, Dubbo's basically our business centre, and it's fractured that in my view and view of other mayors.
Well, it was argued that way, wasn't it?
Anyway, is there any, sorry, Jackie,
I do support the recommendation. I think that because we did so much groundwork and we looked at the pros and cons before even going into it, we went out to Cobar, remember, and asked questions out there. It's not like we haven't tried. And yeah, I think that we have done our best to make it work. And yeah, I think, yeah, it's grounds for this recommendation.
Thank you. Any further?
The question, so if we do go ahead with this and we start forming something else, are you going to discuss it with the Western group as well, the JO out there, that were part of
well, there be quite frank discussions, I reckon. Yeah, they might even still have a JO, but we invite them to be part of an OROC as well. I mean, I don't, they'll do what they would need to do in their patch.
So this will be something you probably talk to them about.
Very big discussion point.
Yeah.
It'll be a very big discussion when it's broken up.
Yeah. I mean, be mindful that those Western councils received 3 or 4 million in terms of airport type funding and passenger services. It was their character to get them on board. But even so, for Warren chose not to be part of that. But what, the immediate thing is we could ask Canamble whether they become again part of and Dubbo, and then that's a big start. And then from Warren and maybe, and then the others beyond that. So we've just got to start somewhere. Yep. I think that's the thing. We've got to admit that if something's not working, it's not working. Councillor Williams.
I agree with Councillor Levy. We put a lot of work into join and try and make it work, which Councillors have notified us. But I reckon these other councils will jump to get back in there. They'll do backflips. I think it was very beneficial to all around the region.
What happens behind the scenes is senior staff and managers are actually meeting to actually improve themselves and their own parts of the organisation, seeing what other people are doing. I bet you a lot of that is not happening as much as before. And it's not the, what's it called, the Orana water utilities, and I bet you it's not really meeting as much as it should. You get it there.
We haven't. It is actually continuing reasonably well.
Is it?
Yeah, it's because it's sort of a semi-separate
And staff,
Yeah, I don't know. My understanding is it's still functioning reasonably well. My understanding as well is that the general managers of all the councils that were the old Rock are still meeting
and
trying to get, it went into abeyance for a period, but then it's been re-established. Is that a Yeah. Yes. So the things happening that we just need to. The thing happening besides the scenes that obviously work So what we're trying to do is formalise the things on top of the table that really, we need to make working. Any further discussion? I think.
Mayor, we'll just tidy up that to, move where the and's supposed to be and
It'll get tidied up.
think add it in the 6 months.
So move and second, happy with that. I think you actually moved what was actually on the screen there. So any further comments, questions, discussions before we put that? Being the case, all those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the reports of the Division Manager of Finance Administration. Item 1 of those, reconciliation certificate. Someone happy to move that? Councillor Williamson, second Councillor Bruce. Councillor Williamson.
I guess with the sewage fund, that payment will be for the sewage funds, the Manager of Finance.
Yeah, through the command, the majority of that would be payment claim, and we're still waiting on obviously being a 50% reimbursement on those, which is about $460,000 reimbursement to come in the end of this, well, with today, next tomorrow.
Thank you.
But yeah, that is, you'll see some big figures in there in the next 6 months.
I'm expecting to this.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding to the Councillor Irving, reconciliation certificate?
Just a question to clarify, with the total bank and investments accounts balance, 9.7 million there, I've noticed that since I was in that, in 2018 we had like approximately 13 million in December of 2018. I can just see that's eating away, it's being eaten away, and I just wondered, and the pattern is like it's regular now, like, is there any way that we might be able to ease that up, or is that the role of that account, and we find that all those investments that we're finding we're needing to eat away at that? Just the last few months it's gone down significantly as well.
It's pretty bad, and that's correct because we're spending our grant money, and it will go down further probably as we construct the sewer treatment plant. Until such times as the loan funds that we applied for through TCOR, when we receive them, we're looking to drawing them down to the 30th of June. It should be a $4 million injection, but then we've got to pay for the stuff that's going to come out. We've already paid for the pool, which is 750, but that's just to balance that back, but then we've still got the entire and spent probably $1 million down at the treatment works, and so you've got another $5 million there, it's going to come out. Yeah, but yeah, it'll fluctuate, but it's getting down to the situation where, it will be dropping all the time, basically, with all the capital work that we do.
And I think we've got to be mindful of, we're not a business trying to save money, we're a council trying to provide services for our community and upgrade them. So having money in the bank is a good thing, but it's actually, we're trying to better our community with trying to improve the infrastructure. We're not doing patch up jobs, we're not doing things properly. And I think it's, it's money well spent. We'll look back and say, yes, that was done properly and done well. So I understand completely Councillor Irving's question, but we just need to have that mindset of what we're doing with that money, and that a lot of it is grant. We'll be getting some inflows of money, but it'll be going out. It's just, you don't build a sewage treatment plant every day of the week, sort of thing. So, and we've got a significant commitment in funding that, as well as the grant funding. So, yep. Councillor Williamson.
One other thing that we do run on budget as well through council. We do have budget over where we review the budgets and find out where we are. So money spent's already been been allocated through the year as well. So it's just a lot of grant money what we're spending as well. Thank you.
Any further questions, comments on the reconciliation certificate, item 1 out of the Finance Administration report? That being the case, we'll put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Item 2, the statement of annual rates and charges, someone happy to move the recommendation? Councillor Sturvey, second. Councillor Walker, Councillor Sturvey.
I'm happy to move the recommendation, and it's just nice to note that even in these hard times, the rates are still being paid on a reasonable basis, which is good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further? Item 2. Being the case, we'll put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Item 3, the Division Manager of Finance Administration report regarding the signatories of our bank account. Someone happy to move that recommendation? Councillor Sturvey, Councillor Walker, Councillor Sturvey.
Yeah, it's mainly just tidying up the new GM.
Absolutely, it's just, it is exactly as you're saying, it's things, people move, things move, we just need to bring, perhaps the General Manager deserves to be a signatory of the,
Co-signed by the manager next to me.
I think so, that's exactly correct.
We're all very desperate.
He actually gave me, I think, a $10 limit on the credit card.
That was generous.
500, sorry, it was 500. And you have to use your credit card for any effects.
The day. A month.
And then finance administration is a very tidy fellow in terms of keeping our finances in order, so that entirely expected. Any further comments or questions on the signatories to the bank account? Put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Moving on to item 4 of the Division Manager Finance Administration report regarding the alcohol-free zone. And this relates to an extension of the period for another 4 years.
No submissions were received.
No submissions were received in regard to that, which has been advertised for 28 days, was it?
Well, just under 14 days. Advertised the period.
Yeah. Thank you. You have to move that, Councillor Sturvey. Second, Councillor Derrick. Councillor Sturvey.
We're happy to extend it. It seems to be working at the moment, so.
Thank you, Councillor.
Brian?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
We're actually probably thinking that, because we now know that there were no submissions, that we actually changed the recommendation to actually say, 1, council note that no submissions were received.
Yep.
Stop. 2, the council resolved to renew the,
Yep.
the 7 day full stop.
Yep. And the mover, Councillor Sturvey. Second was Councillor Walker. Derrick, sorry. You happy with that?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Just noting that no submissions were received. Yes.
No. No.
That working wishes, discussions have been received and resolved to renew the alcohol-free zone in the Warrentown levy commencing 27th March 2021 for a 4-year period in the zone by 2 day by consideration being representation.
And after day restriction, after day. Where you going?
Can I just make a comment there, gentlemen, before we go too far with that one? We did relax that at one time when the Christmas street party was on. And do we need then that part in the motion?
Oh, well, we haven't before, but you just got to apply to the police and relax it. At any time, as and when needed.
So that this doesn't preclude that occurring?
No.
No. Thank you. Move and second, happy with that? Any further comments, questions, discussion? Thank you, Councillor. Put that, all those in favour? Against? Carried. There are no reports from the Division Manager of Engineering Services. Moving on to reports of the Manager of Health and Development. First, those is the development application approvals. Someone happy to move that development application? Yes, I'll call it, will be none. Councillor Whittington, second. Councillor Higgins. Councillor Whittington.
Just move the recommendation, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I think we're still, just as a, for information, we still have to tender on construction of that. Yes,
Ninth of April, it closes the second, for the second one.
so just to bring council up to speed on that development, we cast the net fairly closely initially to build the transfer station at Gilmar Waste Depot. No one willing to take that on. We've cast the net a bit more broadly now, and we have some indication. You informed me yesterday that there are a number of people number of organisations responded.
So far, there's 13 that have read the document, and 6, I think it is, have declined. So we've still got 7 that are active, and a potential for others to still apply into the process.
So this is,
Sorry, we closes on Friday, the 9th of April to 4 p.m.
so this is vendor panel in action. We initially fairly closed for local people, and then broadly now, and so we'll see what comes out of vendor panel on this location. Yeah. Thank you. Any further comments, questions on item 1 of the Division Manager of Health and Development? Then Councillor Cook, all those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 2, requesting a donation from the Warren Museum and Gallery Association. Someone happy to move that recommendation or a variation of? Councillor Beach, move Councillor Beach, and moving the recommendation, Councillor Beach.
No, I'm happy to go on with it. I think in line with other with reduction in fees.
Thanks.
Yep.
Councillor Beach, you're happy to second?
Yes.
Councillor Beach, anything further? Councillor Irving?
Just comment, I understand consistency is really important. I've got the context of us reducing high fees at the showdown and racecourse was to do with the COVID situation, which is relevant, but I'm still happy to support the recommendation. As long as we're consistent.
Yeah, I think so. And just to put it in context a little bit, the Museum and Gallery Association have been a little bit beneficiaries of the order of $3 million. Where council has undertaken to subsidise their rates. So it's not as though we're not giving them some support and some degree of help when it's required through the general manager. So yeah, look, I think we're doing our bit. The other thing is, it just worries me a little bit that they need money to get started. That's what, I'm thinking, hang on a minute, what's actually going on here? But that's an issue for them. They obviously want to get up and running and get started, but that is just something in my mind. I think, okay, yeah, what's going on here? All right, any further comments, questions regarding the recommendation for item 2, request for a donation to the Museum and Gallery Association? That being the case, we'll put that. All those in favour? Yes. Carried. Moving on to item 3, extension of swimming pools at Memorial Swimming Pool. I know this was something that I proposed at a council meeting or at a briefing prior to the last meeting. I think we need to just understand the financial implications, but on the other side, I don't know whether patronage of the pool we've got last year's numbers there. I just wonder what
There is a new document.
Oh, new document. Okay. So, first in order, we need a mover and a seconder, no matter what, and then we can have some discussion. We need to, you know, Councillor Beach, Councillor Beach having to move it, Councillor Seek, Councillor Swift seconded, Councillor Beach.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to move it, but, yeah, the numbers from the preceding season are probably, it's probably a similar season to last year, so I guess the year before might even be better figures because we've had two fieldwork marches, so whether that's impacted the numbers, I'm not quite sure, so I'd be hesitant in chucking at their first numbers. That's the question. And so I guess the figures, we don't have any figures from the year.
Yeah, we have, no, not 19, no.
But I'm just saying, that last year was similar to this year, as far as been working forward. So, I guess.
The other question, Councillor Beach, is there any more swimming carnivals, anyone training still?
And there's a commentary at the very last of the figures provided that have been circulated.
I think that paragraph is correct, that there's no more championships, no one else going to state level for this area, but
After speaking with the pool manager, the possible swimmer that may be eligible for nationals will train elsewhere.
it starts to drop off.
So, Councillor, the feeling is that it is a very reasonable thing to just stick with the original closing date for the one Memorial Swimming Pool, which would have been this weekend. My feelings, I just don't like going back on our word if it's suddenly turned warm and
Take a while for that body of water to warm up.
True, Councillor, I understand you.
It's due to the ongoing cold weather. In the event of a major heat wave, that it's a bit flexible.
Well, that is something that, you know, that's something that's possible.
I think it's a management happy to work along.
It's pretty hard. We do have contingencies in place, but it's still pretty hard to suddenly say, oh no, we've got a 28 degree.
Gary wants to swim.
Open
Gary wants
I gave you splash for
Any thoughts, Councillor Derek? Councillor Williamson, Councillor Derek?
Just following up on your train of thought, can I just clarify if there's been any communication to the effect that we would be extending it to the end of school holidays? I mean, I think it's a sensible resolution in the context of the report, but I'm just concerned if people are expecting it will be open until the end of the holidays.
It's certainly in the mayor's desk.
Did you say that we would consider?
No.
That's my big concern.
Due to the ongoing cold weather, that's one of the reasons. Yeah, put it into the resolution and let's sort of get there. We just have to take the flag.
It's plenty of
Okay. I think if we amend that, councillor Beach, one more memorial swimming pool season is not extended due to the continuing cooler, wet weather.
And
And
And declining patronage.
also consultation with the pool manager as well. With consultation with users or whatever, we have I was talking to, we have had consultation. So I think it's not like we're just making this decision half-handed.
Absolutely.
So due to put that in there as well.
And also,
say it again, councillor Williamson.
With consultation with users and also pool management.
You would like to, after June, do you want to completely remove it? The main reason is not the cost, or do you want to have the cost in there as well? Do you want to remove it? Take the cost out?
Yeah, take the cost out.
So, and that appropriate with swimming pool users.
Yes, Grant Manager Health, that's correct, isn't it? We have to,
Yes.
we have management and all users, yes, so we can put that in there.
Just help a little bit, and note that appropriate consultation.
take it.
But take it.
The temperature of the water, I mean,
It's complaining about on Sunday, so how cold it is. So, I think,
colleague Trevor Wilson's a little bit worried about the train. The pool water was not one cold.
we just can't, it's not extended beyond Sunday, just move that, Jody. Good, that beyond, that the Warren Memorial Swimming Pool season is not extended beyond Sunday, March 23rd.
Yeah.
Due to
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I need pool management. Only pool management? Yes.
no, we can't.
It's only two turning up, so.
That's going to show that school management, not I believe, pool management.
Change users to management.
Yeah, cold weather. No, but every conversation we might take that call. Yep, I'm comfortable with that, Councillor Ritchie, comfortable with that, Councillor Bruce, the second. Exactly. Thank you. Is there any further to be added there before we put that? Everyone comfortable with that? Thank you. Put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Item 4 of the Manager of Health and Development's report there, the status update regarding the Visitor Information Centre. Someone happy to move that recommendation? Councillor Walker. Second, Councillor Derrick. Councillor Walker.
I understand the situation at the moment with the MOA. Needs to be reviewed. There has been talk about a VIC there for some time in the last few months. I agree with 2 and 3. I have a bit of an issue with item 4 of the recommendation, in that amount, which is also questionable, but seems to be chopping and changing a bit. In the memorandum of understanding in August, it was 8.5, and that was to do with the rates, land charges, maintenance of buildings, repairs and maintenance of buildings. I think to take that money and there's a costing to run it, which is 7,891, to take it out of 8.5, I don't think is appropriate. I don't think it's in the manner of the MOA originally. And also to run a visitor information centre, the person managing it needs to get I've been looking it up, a diploma of travel and tourism management. So that is a cost in itself, to have someone trained and to have someone paid to run it. With volunteers, you can have both, but you need a manager there to run a VIC. So I think, to be honest, it probably needs, when there's a new MOA, that this all needs to be brought up and discussed as we move forward. So I have issues with the recommendation.
What I think, I can understand what you're saying, Councillor Moore, but I think what we need to understand is the present Tourist Information Centre is not going to, in my view, open again.
No, it wasn't really a VIC.
It wasn't a bit, that's right, it's a tourist information.
Requirements of a VIC.
Yes, and it was only a tourist information centre as opposed to a visitors information centre. So, you're right, there's mandatory requirements for a visitors information centre. So what I believe we just need to establish some sort of intent that Windows on the Wetlands Centre would become a tourist information centre initially perhaps, and then progresses over time to become a proper visitors information centre.
There's a process with destination.
Yes.
New South Wales, which the manager at the moment is in consultation, and they will help along that, towards that end that you're talking about. But there's also a financial consideration in it, and there's an ongoing financial consideration to have it run in that appropriate manner. So to me, that needs to, if you want it, if council wants it, they're going to have to, I would think. I know that it says to support it along the lines, but it's also financial support. I think it has to be borne by, I don't know who, but it needs to be discussed,
I think the first thing is we need, back one, we need to actually have a proper memorandum. And I'm not sure that the reason we haven't signed an ongoing memorandum of understanding is that we weren't sure of the structure that the Windows of the Wetlands, for want of a better term, actually were acting under at present. And so that's the first thing, and then you can start to, in my mind, once you've got some sort of understanding of how that works, then have a serious conversation about, what is involved and what the funding level might be, etc., etc. But it's all a bit of too many, couple of moving targets here and trying to sort something out.
I can say at the moment there's moves to an AGM to discuss just the structure. Well, there needs to be a meeting about the structure. It seems to be working towards it. Riversmart it will continue to be called that, but the structure will be different. And that's a discussion that has to be with the committee members, and then that will come out. But it seems to be going to keep that name. But you're right, that has to be worked out first, and when that's worked out, maybe there can be more discussion with council.
In the interim, though, is it possible to have the brochures and those sorts of things? Just
very much to do.
Because I think we're letting ourselves down by not having that sort of information.
Yeah, no, the manager's very happy with to have that.
Councillor
Seems to me that I don't know why Riversmart will take this on, to be honest with you, because we're basically saying we're going to take away most of the existing financial contribution, replace it with a bunch of brochures and things they don't need. The security per year cost goes away, so does the cleaning and so does the maintenance and repair of the existing centre. So if we gift the gift, which is gift, in one part of this idea, and then we talk about it coming out of the 8,500, that's not a gift, that's a liability. So we need to think this through a little bit harder. And the merchandise is a gift and that goes away. The way I see this is that it's the net benefit to council that the building and the information centre currently has a liability of $7,891. So we gift the merchandise to them, and that's fine. We've already, that expense is sunk. But in the MOU, we have to have, it's not about what they get right now, it's about how they manage this going forward. They're going to run out of tea towels and teaspoons or whatever they sell. So at some point it has to be recharged, the merchandise. So I think the idea of putting it over there is fantastic. I've had a look at the spot, and I think it's a no-brainer personally. It'll bring more business into that store. I think that, you know, in terms of coffees and those sorts of things. So there's a benefit there, and I think that gifting these things, I just think we've got this worded poorly, to be honest with you, because I think that in one sense we're going to gift it to them, the next minute we're going to take it out of what they have. Now, if this is the case, and all that comes out of the $8,500, they've got to find that for maintenance and upgrades and the things that we currently provide. So I think we need to rethink how we propose this, because if the centre here disappears, that's a saving to us. So there's mutual benefit to both of us, and the way this is set up looks like they're in a worse position potentially. They have to find, you know, something like $600. Oh, sorry, they only get a benefit of about $600 out of this year if we gift all this to them, but they will have to find the rest of that money themselves. So we either reword this or come again at it from a better angle that acknowledges the net benefit to both parties that this putting the business centre over there represents. We'll get potentially much more throughput of people at the WOW Centre than we would currently have now.
Can we go on what Andrew said? You reworded or I mean, I don't think number 4, to my way of thinking, it should be legged out. I just don't think it's should be part of this until there's further discussion.
I think might work perhaps Councillor Walker is we just only do 1, 2, 3, and maybe band 5. Leave out 4 at the moment. I think the first point is the one you can't do anything else in my mind before the existing MO is reviewed, and that means WOW Riversmart get their house in order so we know what we're doing with first.
I think 4 and 5 can probably go, because I don't know, they're arranging them reviewed in 6 months' time. They can be reviewed sooner than that.
Okay, so leave 4 and 5 out. Consider leaving 4 and 5 out.
If everyone's
You're the move, I think, and then in a second. There in a second. So is that, Councillor Lewis, is that a reasonable proposition? We just do 1, 2, 3 at this stage?
Mr. Mayor, can we also change one of the wording to number 2, instead of the council gift or brochures provide? Would that be a better word than gift? Okay.
Well, provide may have connotations of ongoing provision. We need to be careful about how we. Correct. We're not happy to give it to them. I think it's the town's asset as it is, and we just have to keep in mind that we're just shifting the information centre to what I see as a better place, personally. So to gift it to them as a one-off, we're still in the MOU, have to talk about recharging those brochures and things like that. Who has that responsibility? There's that, and the ongoing maintenance of the correct qualification as well. And that's going to take a bit more conversation between both parties, I think, to get that off the ground. I'm happy with the gift, I think.
But I'd say your existing brochures, current brochures instead of all.
Yeah, current.
Whatever's in the information centre now. I'd just suggest instead of all, number 2, put current brochures.
Yep. So that's one one potential amendment. So, Councillor Walker, we're amending the recommendation, going through 1, 2, just having 1, 2 and 3. Councillor Bruce there is suggesting that council give all current issues to River Smart, correct? Because there's two things there. They might change, they might not be the appropriate ones. The third point, council sell all current merchandise through the WOW at the current prices set. I wonder, is the appetite from the Manager Finance Administration to gift that merchandise to gift it, and they keep the proceeds?
The manager is quite happy with that goes the way that he's putting a recommendation. I mean, council brought them to start with.
Can we just talk for the help me?
Don't find if you, go for it.
Could change, get rid of 3 and just say to all current brochures and merchandise to River Smart.
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you, General Manager.
But I think that's sort of a goodwill gesture to say to River Smart, you're filling in a gap. We'll get a we'll get a financial benefit because we're not outlaying those funds, but on the other side, you're going to get financial, you keep the proceeds from those. So.
And I also say to you, the schoolhouse, a lot of the money that has been given very, thankfully, providing for the council, has gone towards the redesign, the refurbishment.
Constant upgrades.
But a lot of it's been voluntary labour to paint it, to refurbish it. So, it's over 30,000 easily. So, and that's an asset that's owned by council.
So, are we happy to just have 1 and 2 there? Councillor Walker, you're the mover. 1 and 2 being including all current gift, all brochures and current merchandise to the WOW Centre. For want of a better term.
River Smart, you want to say River Smart?
You did want to say River Smart, I think, sorry, wrong on the group.
And so do we need to be clear about what we want done with it in there, with the view to supporting the information centre, something like that? We can gift it to them, they can put it out the back and store it and not do anything with it.
I know.
I know they're not going to, but, I don't know.
Maybe the storms.
To be sold through the warehouse, to be used at the warehouse.
I think we. That's what it's for. Yeah, that might be semantic, but that's what they're going to do.
Very thankfully, it's being installed.
Okay, are we, Councillor Walker, you happy to move that recommendation? Happy with that? Second, there was Councillor Derrick. Are you happy? Yep. Is there any further discussion on that? Councillor's happy with that direction? That being the case, put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 8, on the base of motion, questions without notice, and this has been reflected our workshop on there, a workshop to develop a framework for suitable community engagement and participation policy and strategy for Warren Shire Council. Councillor Irving has moved that. A seconder, Councillor Derrick. Councillor Irving.
Yeah, so just for the public's benefit, we did have a brief discussion and a workshop to develop a framework for basically a contextual community engagement participation policy and strategy for our Shire, because it's important to be specific as to the community's needs and then partner with the groups and organisations that we do have relationships with, but we want to strengthen those and have a strategy to do that. And then be able to then develop a collective vision, I guess, for the community. And for example, like what Councillor Brewer and Councillor Walker were saying earlier today, looking at recycling, you know, and as we connect with the organisations that potentially support that project, we have a strategy to do that. It means that the whole the planning can just be consolidated and strengthened, and yeah, be more, we've got more accountability on the processes and things like that.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Councillor Walker, did you? No, I you thought, I saw you moving your hand, I thought, oh, sorry. Thank you. Any further comments, questions? It's a job to organise for you at some stage.
Won't for 30 minutes.
No. I accept that. I think we all accept that.
And I think that what probably find that it won't be just the 12 councillors, it'll be probably the management executive team to make sure that they are actually doing some community consultation.
Yep, absolutely.
On interesting projects with Richard, as we keep getting millions and millions of dollars.
It's all going. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Any further comments, discussion, questions regarding the item? As a motion, workshop develop a framework for policy for community engagement. Being the motion for that, all those in favour? Against? Carried. As an urgency, I'm aware of none. Moving on to the confidential matter, and then we need to follow the proper procedure. So we close the meeting, or we close this meeting.
Now, Mr. Mayor, apologies, we're actually, we're not changing the process, but what we're really going into is closed council. Even better if it's called Committee of the Whole Closed Council, because that allows you to actually, in closed council, actually really just have proper discussions to formulate good resolutions. So I'm calling it Committee of the Whole Closed Council. What we're still in is open council, and we're really going into closed council. And to make a Committee of the Whole, we can actually have some very good discussion instead of being very formal. So that's why, and what we're in the end, we're actually, Jody will show you that we actually really go into Committee of the Whole Closed Council, which actually has its own minutes. And that's why in the end, you'll move and second apologies.
Okay.
Same thing, it's almost as if it's a secondary council meeting within. Yeah.
So can I ask a question? Given that we've been excluding the public that we normally do, can we break formal meeting?
Yeah, let's keep the public in, we can have a cup of tea.
Yeah. And then the public would love
to. Councillors, we need to consider a confidential matter now, and the procedure is that we need a resolution to proceed into closed council with the Committee of the Whole, the matters listed in that report, and any other matters for which a separate resolution has been carried in this meeting. So I need someone to move a resolution that we move into closed council Committee of the Whole. Someone happy to do that? Councillor Brewer, second, and Councillor Sergi. With that, all those in favour? Against? Carried. We need a second resolution then to exclude the press from the Committee of the Whole meeting for the reasons stated. So I have someone saying mover and seconder, happy to do that. wait a second. Right, now how do we move?
Slide up a little bit, Joe.
Yeah, you can move this. There we are.
Another mover and a
Move
second.
it the second of those, perhaps we move Councillor Brewer and Councillor Sergi.
And Mr Mayor, do you like those sort of things read out, or is everyone happy? Because that's when the public can walk back in, and then we read out, or they see, what's come out of the committee of the whole closed council.
So we will read it out on this occasion. It's moved by Councillor Brewer, seconded by Councillor Sergi. The council, in accordance with the local government tendering regulation 2005 and the amended tender documentation following renegotiation, award the contract for the tender number 307/2020 upgrade/refurbishment of airside infrastructure, including runways, taxiways, aprons, drainage and line marking at Warren Aerodrome to Fulton Hogan Airports Division at the renegotiated tender cost to council of $1,795,148 ex-GST, and that authority be granted to the general manager to sign the tender contract and any related documentation. It's been, sorry, yeah, it's been moved and seconded. Councillor Walker.
I'm just going on what Ms. Gary just mentioned, you know, the public can come back in and you're reading that out.
Yes.
Well, you're deceiving the public, and they would probably some know that it's already been done. I have issues with that.
The administration side of the.
But the public hears that, sees that and hears that, and it's not right.
Well, you're going to see it because that's in the minutes of the open council.
I think that's terrible, it's just deceiving. It's a deceit.
It's just finalisation recommendation. It should have been probably put November, December.
I find that very difficult to see that someone might do it, but it's all out there. Let's hope it doesn't happen again.
We're making sure we're following proper process.
Yeah, look, it's just, look, it's not, I understand what you're saying, Councillor Walker. It's just one of those things that has occurred. We need to rectify the situation as best we can, and this is the way to do it. Any further discussion, comments before we go? All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Now, further. No, we don't have anything. No. That being the case, we declare the meeting closed.